All right, my friends. Okay, just before we get started, want to remind you that this channel is for educational purposes only, and perhaps in the eyes of the law for entertainment purposes only, whatever it may be. So, hello everybody. Hope you've had an okay or good beginning to your week. I know it's Monday and a drag, right? But I hope you guys are all right out there. It's good to see you. I want to say hello to everybody over on... if you guys can let me know if you're hearing me all right. It looks like I'm getting errors from YouTube, so hopefully everything's okay. And I hope everyone else on Odysee and Rumble and Twitch is okay. If you guys can give me a heads up. In the meantime, I want to give a shout out to Rolling Water over on Odysee and anyone else listening there, as well as anyone listening on Rumble and Twitch. Hello. And hello, YouTube. Great to see y'all. Okay, so before we get started, I just wanted to go over a super chat that I forgot to answer last stream, and I apologize to UWU. They had sent a super chat and asked, do you have a video where you review accounts of people hurting or repelling afterlife beings? I used black fire to reject the council of white robed beings before. I've seen that it happens a lot in astral projection, OBEs. There really isn't much pushback when it comes to NDEs. That's kind of the problem. Dan and I were talking about that before. It really does seem like the euphoria, the love bomb, the feeling like it's at home and all that stuff plays such a massive role because they're being drugged out. So where you see that a lot, actually breakthrough trips, you see it a lot. You see it, astral projection / OBEs, even lucid dreaming. So it's there. I've seen some battles with what was it? The deathbed visions visitation. So yeah, there are examples out there, but unfortunately not with NDE. So and I can't recall which cases I've gone over as far as the fighting back or using intention to kind of shut things down, but there are a few on the channel. And even in this video, I think one of the NDEers talks about intention, but it's a little different. So, so basically those topics are probably the best thing to approach with all this, because with NDEs, it's just like they're under such manipulation that it's difficult. I want to say maybe one of the Coma Diaries episodes, there was something with intention used, but of course they get wrapped right back in it again. So sorry, but as far as the NDEs go, the manipulation and the love bomb and the feeling like home and the reuniting with the loved ones or the soul group is so powerful. So yeah, it's just a little different. Hey, Armchair Prophet, True Detective, Candidly, Ascension Bar, Knight, Joyce, April, Shannon. Hope you had a good show yesterday or the other day, Shannon. And D and Dusty and everyone else watching. Hope you're doing well. Hello, Elizabeth. Okay, so we'll probably be here a couple hours tonight. It shouldn't be much longer than 2 hours, 15 minutes. I'm hoping somewhere around there. We're going to be kind of rapid firing over these cases. And a few of them are going to be fast, so I'm going to have to rewind them a little bit. Some are longer than others, and some are short. So, all right, let's get rolling. I think you're going to like this one. Oh, and by the way, this is part 2 of the Entity Deception series. I put the link to part 1 in all the description tabs, regardless what platform you're watching on, with the exception of Twitch, because it doesn't allow me to until after the stream. And then there will be a part 3 probably next month. So keep an eye out for that. We'll be doing kind of a breakdown of multiple cases in that one too.
The next thing I saw was up and to my right. There arose just an amazing, incredibly beautiful, loving ball of brilliant, living light. It seemed to be expanding larger and larger and brighter as I gazed onto it. At no time did this ball of light make me travel towards it. Instead, I just instinctively could not wait to travel towards it just by desiring to do so. The speed of travel was amazing. The closer I came towards it, the purer the love, the stronger my desire to arrive evolved.
Okay, now that is big right there, right? This is something we pointed out a lot, and she's kind of openly explaining the process, like how the closer you get, the more attracted you are. Like it is, it becomes more and more appealing. So really important moment, just right out the gate.
Just by desiring to do so. The speed of travel towards it.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to rewind just a second.
As I gazed onto it, at no time did this ball of light make me travel towards it.
Key, right? So we talk about consent. At no time did this ball of light make me go towards it. It didn't make her go towards it. Boy, interesting, isn't it? Sorry, I'm just being a little sarcastic here.
Instead, I just instinctively could not wait to travel towards it.
I instinctively could not wait to travel towards it. So the familiarity that we have all had, because we're all here, right? We've all experienced this. Who knows how many lifetimes? It's this rushing desire to go there because it's like you're going to the street hustler on the side of the road who's trying to get you high. And then, of course, there's the factor of being reunited with loved ones and the love. You know, the feeling like it's at home. I know I'm repeating myself, but really important moments just right in our face that talk about you can make the decision. It's up to you.
Just by desiring to do so. The speed of travel was amazing. The closer I came towards it, the purer the love, the stronger my desire to arrive evolved, and the surrounding darkness that I told you about a moment ago was gradually going away. Midway in transit to this amazing ball of living light, my soul, or who I am and always have been, stopped dead in my tracks at the realization of, oh my gosh, I'm dying. Meanwhile, an immense level of comfort and reassurance overwhelmed my realization of my own earthly death, and I simply could not wait or delay my transit towards the amazing place of pure love and peace. So as I felt these feelings by desire, I continued onward towards the living place of light until I arrived all in. Once there, I was greeted by a number of beautiful, incredibly happy, just exuberant, colorful, iridescent souls. We each very much resembled human characteristics, although we weren't exactly alike. At that same time in my life, I had not yet experienced the earthly death of any of my relatives or best friends of any kind. So today, I still couldn't tell you who any of these souls were, but they greeted me heartily as if they'd always known me. Upon arrival to this place, it had an unmistaken familiarity. It was home. In fact, it was all.
So there you go. Saying the same thing. It's like all these cases, not all, but many of these cases, they just feel like they're at home. I mean, it just pops up over and over and over again. So really important to keep in mind. Are we really going to be led to believe that as eternal beings that the light is home? It's just how dare you question it? Can't we think bigger? We should be thinking bigger, much bigger, and make sure that, hey, we're going to be in control every step of the way and not allow ourselves to fall into this repetitive cycle. The reason why it feels so much like home is because of the love bomb. It's because of the being reunited, because it's not Earth. I mean, but we have to think in terms of within the matrix construct, the overall construct, the multiple realms in here, not just that area. We have to think bigger. Just common sense would tell you that. Are we to believe that our home is coming from there? No way. There's just no way.
They'd always known me. Upon arrival to this place, it had an unmistaken familiarity. It was home. In fact, it was all of our homes. In fact, it was the place from where we had all originated. Much like when back here on Earth, you come home from work each night and you cross the threshold of your doorway, you're home. You don't say it aloud, you just know. That's how I felt. I had been to this place before. It was comfortable, it was glorious, and my arrival was like a huge homecoming. Job well done. They were rejoicing with me. I could still see everywhere and anywhere I desired, and I too was every bit as colorful and beautiful and iridescent as each of these glorified souls were. I'm not implying that we all looked alike, because it wasn't the case. The loving, pure light of this place, though, shone through each of us, and God dwelt in and among each of us and in all things in this place. There was complete absence of anything evil or dark or bad. I was able to telepathically communicate with multiple glorified souls all at once throughout my time.
Okay, so another thing, there's no negative entities. Everything's love and light. It's all cool. Something really to keep in mind as well is, like, if you are running an operation like is going on Earth, and remember, we came, when we came into the system, we went through all this BS, and we have been reincarnating, or at least, whether it's your first time or 10,000th time, we have been coming from that system. Now, wouldn't it be ideal for the system to set it up to make you feel all these different things, like you're at home, like like you're reunited and all that stuff? That would be the smart move, because, hey, they know that when you're out of the human body, the playing field changes. The manipulation and deception can still be there, but the playing field changes because you open up as a true essence being. You're a little more perceptive. So what do? They kind of roll out the red carpet of sensory overload and do their thing in an effort to keep you within this system.
Such a girl thing to do, to be able to twist evil or dark or bad. I was able to telepathically communicate with multiple glorified souls all at once throughout my time. Such a girl thing to do, to be able to talk to so many people all at once. The other striking aspect of these glorified souls was that we each had a very heightened degree of wisdom and knowledge. In no way am I suggesting that our knowledge or wisdom was equal to that or greater than that of God himself, because that was never the case. Instead, I'm saying that our wisdom and knowledge far exceeded that of us here in the earthly realm.
Okay, so just let's back that up. I know I'm stopping it a lot, but there's a lot here.
Glorified souls was that we each had a very heightened degree of wisdom and knowledge. In no way am I suggesting that our knowledge or wisdom was equal to that or greater than that of God himself, because that was never the case.
Okay, so immediately there, the hierarchical system comes rolling right in. I'm not implying that, we're equal to God or something, but we are equal. We're all pegged down a notch below the grand BS creator.
Instead, I'm saying that our wisdom and knowledge far exceeded that of us here in the earthly realm. I greatly enjoyed my various conversations with these glorified souls in this place of pure loving wonder and joy. And meanwhile, just in general terms, I was given to know that I had the option to stay there eternally, or I could return to my earth suit below.
How often do we hear that?
And complete the gift of life.
Okay, so that's the first case. We're going on to the second one. What I'm going to do is just pop up this briefly in between each case to make it easier for timestamps.
And it's brilliant. And the brilliance, you think of brilliant light and it kind of makes you feel like that might be too much, that I need to put on dark glasses. As brilliant as this is, your eyes are fine with it. You don't have any response to it where, you want to shield yourself because it's so brilliant. But it's so gentle. And I guess that's the dichotomy, it's so huge and magnificent and wondrous, and yet it's so gentle and so loving. And that's the feeling, you're just stepping into this sense of unconditional love. And so from there, at the end of this beautiful, beautiful light, it starts to separate. And I'm now floating through the opening. And as I'm coming out the other end, there are 2 rows of beings in front of me. And they're dressed in monks' robes, brown monks' robes. Now, lots of people have lots of different experiences, and I think it's always set up according to what would be analogous to them, what would be a comfort for them.
Exactly. And that's the thing that anyone who's kind of new to this research needs to really look into on their own with their own research is, with NDEs, all of the top researchers in the field are in agreement, in unison, that the NDE is carved out and presented and customized to the individual. So belief system based scenarios will play themselves out because of what you've believed and learned and what you're connected to here on Earth. And then there are some that kind of could be linked to your soul group who you may not have incarnated with in this lifetime, but are familiar with in past lifetimes. You don't necessarily remember everything because your memory wiped, but you kind of have this sense of familiarity, but you didn't incarnate with them on Earth. And then there's obviously most of the time there are familiar beings. So everything is customized to the individual. And the reason for that is because it makes it easier to manipulate.
Now, lots of people have lots of different experiences, and I think it's always set up according to what would be analogous to them, what would be a comfort for them. And for me, being 12 years in Catholic school and all of that, monks were a very gentle part of all of that, more so than priests. And so here they were in monks' robes, brown monks' robes, with the hoods up. And they're facing like this as I'm going through the center of them. And I'm just feeling this unconditional love radiating to me and through me and around me. It's like coming home. It's like coming home to a part of myself I didn't know I had. It's like coming home to myself in a way I had never experienced in life. Now, remember, I started out in trouble emotionally.
So she as well says it's like she's coming home. They say this over and over and over again. This is, again, a really important point because this is the most recent thing that you came from, but you've been memory wiped lifetime after lifetime, not knowing where you came from, why you were here, where you're going. So the familiarity of the light, of this whole system, feels like home because you've been memory wiped. Otherwise, this system wouldn't have a leg to stand on. If it didn't have the memory wipe and the limited perception of the human experience, it would have nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Not knowing where my life was going or what I was going to do, I was overwhelmed by life and terrified of making mistakes and, not having the tools and not having support and all of that. And here I am, absolutely enraptured. I felt feelings that I had never felt even as a child, as a newborn with my mother. I felt cherished in a deeper way than I knew you could experience. I felt like everything was right and all right, and that nothing mattered except being in the present of this experience and in this feeling. And all of this.
That sounds pretty deep, right? Nothing else mattered. All that mattered was being in this experience. So where's common sense? Where's discernment? It's being overridden by the mechanics of the deceptive shit. It's being overridden by the mechanics of the deceptive system, which is the Matrix Reincarnation Soul Trap.
And that nothing mattered except being in the present of this experience and in this feeling. And all of this information that came in this moment of being there, when you cross over, you're privy to all of the universal information. You might not retain it when you come back, but you are there in it in that moment. You are connected to all there is and all that is. And I was so grateful to be there. And as I got closer to the front of this group of men, the one on the left stepped forward and he started to speak to me. And when I say speak, it wasn't articulation. It was as if we were speaking inside of each other. And there was no effort to it. It was just communication. It was just normal communication. And he stepped forward to me, and when I looked into his face, there wasn't one. The hood was empty. It was all energy. It was all black energy.
Now, another interesting thing that we see quite a bit, it's not the case every time, but a lot of times when they're dealing with an entity who could be classified as God or the council, a lot of times faces aren't there. There's the robes, the hooded robes are very, very common, but it's like, wow. Why can't you see them? And I think in the Bible, I'm not some Bible, scholar by any means, but I think with the Bible, they talk about how, you can't really look God in the face, right? And that's kind of like the vibe you get here. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's something along those lines.
His face, there wasn't one. The hood was empty. It was all energy. It was all black energy. But it wasn't scary. It was normal. It felt totally normal.
The other thing is sometimes if you don't see the face, you might see like red eyes. We've seen multiple accounts of Jesus having like these crazy red eyes or some sort of like the council or even God kind of having like these like beaming red eyes, which doesn't sound nice. Doesn't sound nice.
Scary. It was normal. It felt totally normal. I could feel him, I could experience him, and I say him because he had all of the wonderful masculine qualities of being in charge, taking care, protection, all of that, and love.
Being in charge. Being in charge. So again, the hierarchy is coming through, but of course it's given the equalizer of the love and this and that. Being in charge, get out of here. This phony ass God trying to pawn itself off as something divine.
And he said to me, and I want to say he looked at me and said to me, and he did. I mean, even though there were no eyes and no face, that was the sensation. And he said to me, "You cannot stay. It's not your time." And I said, "I just came home. I just found everything I had ever wanted in my whole life in connection. I've just experienced it." And he said, "It's not your time. You cannot stay."
This feeling was just this exhilarating.
So it's not your time. You can't stay. Kind of laying down the law, letting everybody know, look, you got to get back to Earth and do your thing. So just remember, I'm putting these thumbnails in between each NDE segment to make it easier for timestamps later.
This feeling was just this exhilarating euphoria. I felt so happy to be home. And I was flying through this star-filled realm, and it felt like there was a cool breeze flowing through me, and somebody was pouring honey all through my brain, and it was running through all my nerves, and I was exuberant. And I couldn't stop thinking, how did I forget who I really was? How in the world? There was such an incredible trick that I...
Isn't that interesting? We've gone over, I believe his name's Bill. We've gone over his case, but what an incredible trick. How did I forget who I am? Well, the problem is, really, guys, think about it this way. It's an incredible trick, but how can you not look at the next possibility of, if this is the system you came from and you were tricked here, how did I not remember all this? If that's the case, remember, you came from that system. So wouldn't you think by proxy that the system that you came from that is responsible for this mess, for the poorly designed human body, for the suffering, for the atrocities, everything that happens here, that is what brought us into here. So who is to say it's just common sense. Why not ask the question, if we came from that, then why, oh why, would we not question it? Seriously, it's just common sense. But the beauty is that intention is king. We control our own destiny, but they make it so hard and so difficult for us to find ourselves, to open up, to retrieve our essence. Now, there's obviously different phases of that as we awaken, but you can see why everything is so weird and screwed up here. It's because they don't want us finding out the scam. They protect it at all costs, and so they make everything confusing and crazy and wacky and painful and filled with suffering, and of course then you have love and happiness and joy. You have everything. You have a nice nature background. Look, it's a very well thought out system, really well thought out. But again, if we are here, and then our next stop is the light that is part of this system, then common sense would say, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe I shouldn't go to the light. Maybe I should just stand up for myself with a sovereign intention, liberation, creating our own realm, just to see how things play out instead of rush and go for that love and light high that this system overwhelmingly proves itself to put out to us. Anyways.
I was in this body and I was this person because I was no longer Bill Letson. I really wanted nothing to do with his whole story and his whole life, even though it had been a dream life. So I was flying along, and I was really thinking that was quite a trick, that I forgot who I really was, and all of a sudden I landed in a place, and it was a solid place.
Now you got to ask yourself. I mean, this is incredible, right? Bill's NDE. I'll try and dig up the link, but he himself is saying, "Oh, I can't believe I fell for this." And then soon as he has that thought process, well, the Matrix starts going into overload and tries to distract Bill. Interesting moment. Open admission. Oh my God, I can't believe I was tricked like this. And soon as that thought process is going through, boom, Matrix computer system kicks into high gear and makes sure to distract him. Incredible. Open admission.
All of a sudden, I landed in a place, and it was a solid place. It had indirect lighting. There were tables there, and there were like beds and stuff. It was very clinical, institutional almost, and there were beings there. There were these 3 robed guys, and they were overjoyed to see me.
So see, we have the robed beings, and I'm sorry, I know I'm stopping a lot, guys, but there's so much. This is like rapid fire NDEs, and we're just going over small little segments to make like an easy one for you. But he's kind of describing a healing center. Now, this is something I've run across quite a bit. I mean, I can't say like it's a massive data point. But it appears, and I'm sure any of you who have been looking into these cases have run across it as well. There are like these healing centers. Sometimes it could be like like abandoned type looking hospitals, or like a hospital setting in general, where there's just beds, and it's like a quote unquote spirit or soul recovery center. They're trying to heal and help individuals, and it's not just those who are destined to come back to Earth, but those who have actually passed. And it's like they're healing them in some way, which is interesting. Really, really interesting. And what we're also seeing him discuss are the robed beings. It's a big one. That's another thing with NDEs. The robed entities are there. And yeah, Harold's in the chat, and he's saying the same thing. Damn it, 3 robed beings again. Exactly. Harold dealt with the robed beings. I mean, it's, I think, right? Yeah. I hope I'm not confusing anything. But anyways, they pop up. So one thing I like to point out is the continuity of familiarity. So things that you experience and are familiar with here on Earth will often mimic themselves in an experience. Well, in this case, an NDE. And what does kind of the robe, what's the symbology of the robe? Oh, it's a good being. It's a peaceful being. It's a monk. It's someone that cares about you and is celibate, or what, that type of stuff. Right? I mean, the being that is on your side and is peaceful and loving and wants to do what's best for all of quote unquote humanity, or true essence beings, or whatever the case may be, or even NPCs.
3 robed guys, and they were overjoyed to see me. They were kidding around and they were bouncing around, and I had known them forever. And there was another guy, and he was in charge.
I'm really, really sorry to pause it again, but I have known them forever. So remember, these are robed beings who They, he knows them, which I would, if I had to put forward, you can say that they're like the council of elders. They could be his teachers or his quote unquote ascended masters. It's the same narrative every single time. Like when these are appearing, it's these are entities that are looked up to, and for some reason, we, or in Bill's case, Bill knows these entities. Now, these aren't entities that he reincarnated with here in his most recent lifetime. He knows who they are. He's familiar with them, but he did not spend time with them on Earth. But he knows who they are. This is the Matrix playing interference and stepping in, butting its head in where it doesn't belong, and trying to convince Bill.
See me. They were kidding around and they were bouncing around, and I had known them forever. And there was another guy, and he was in charge, kind of, and he was this tall, wispy guy. And when he came near me, the love from this being was so amazing, I felt like I was going to burst into tears at any moment. It was, your chest was just going to explode with love. And the three guys kept asking me questions. They kept saying, how was it? What can you tell us? What did you learn? And they were giggling and stuff, and one of them turned to the others, because I was very confused, and one of them turned and laughed and said, he doesn't remember us. And they,
ha 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 ha, big old show, ha ha ha, he doesn't remember. Oh, they sound delightful. They sound delightful. I mean, come on. They're mocking him. Ha ha ha. He doesn't remember. This is the type of shit we're dealing with. Poor Bill. Remember, I can't believe I fell for this. And then boom, boom, boom. The whole, Matrix playbook plays itself out like it always does.
Any questions? They kept saying, how was it? What can you tell us? What did you learn? And they were giggling and stuff, and one of them turned to the others, because I was very confused, and one of them turned and laughed and said, he doesn't remember us. And they giggled some more, and it was quite entertaining. It was like I was home with my best friends, and they were having a good laugh at my expense. And
yeah, they were having a good laugh at your expense, but it wasn't for noble and good reasons. That's the problem. This is where everything falls apart. This is a mocking session. It's not just like your buddies, breaking your balls a little bit. This is purposeful because they're jerks, all right?
And so I was there for a while, and it wasn't very organized. There wasn't anything going on. I think it was just a quick show and tell for me to see what was really out there, and then I was to go back. And they told, at one point I asked them, go through a review of my life, and that was nobody cared. I told a few stories, and they didn't really care. It was like, this is a big joke. This life is a big joke.
Okay, so if it's a big joke, all right, remember, we are told over and over and over again that we're here to learn and grow and evolve spiritually and blah, 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 blah. The same old song and dance over and over and over. If it doesn't matter, right? If it's some big cosmic joke, then why deal with it? Why come to this freaking Loosh Farm nightmare? And it's easy for a number of us to sit back and say, hey, well, I've got electricity, I've got air conditioning and heat, and I could put food on the table and gas in the car and pay the mortgage every night or every month, every night. Imagine paying the mortgage every night. Holy shit. Anyways, but there are so many who don't have that opportunity, right? And we're all dealing with the horrors of inflation. But that's a drop in the bucket compared to the poor child or family that's growing up in North Korea or China or India, in the slums of India, in the caste system. I mean, you pick it. Brazil. I mean, there's so many areas of immense suffering. And so the important thing is to take a step back and realize, yes, I picked a life script in this moment where I'm fortunate to at least have some modern conveniences. But there are so many others who don't. There are so many others who get abused. And all sorts of things happen, right? Like, it's, I grew up in a situation, I'm just going to say this. Never, really gone over it, but, I grew up in a household, we were fortunate. We did have food on the table. We did have, electricity and air conditioning and the heat and all that stuff. But, I was sexually abused, right? I mean, multiple times. And so when you kind of realize that and you experience something like that, it's really and you can leave your body during it, and that's what's happened to me. Not every time, but with that type of stuff, it's like, just because you have the modern day conveniences doesn't mean that there isn't some sort of suffering. It doesn't, like, everyone has their fair share of it, and nobody's is any less or more than, I mean, you can look and say, oh my God, that, there's all these horrible things going on. And yes, some are worse than others. Some are, they are what they are. But at the end of the day, the point is this type of shit is going on. Right? This is a system that has the ability to breed this type of horrific atrocities. And, what I went through is just one example of it. And there's a bunch of other things too. But, I've gone into some of the things that have happened to me. But what I'm trying to say is you have to think on a wide scale. So you may have an easier life script this time, but who's to say that you had one the most recent lifetime or in future lifetimes? So many think that money solves everything. That, you can come in and if you grow up in a wealthy family or you grow up in a certain zip code and this and that, things are going to be just hunky dory. Well, that's just not the case. It's not. There is still mass suffering. Now, again, some are worse than others, but the point is it's happening. It's fucking happening. And, do you really want to roll the dice and be memory wiped lifetime after lifetime? Heck, just think about the horrific life script that all of us could have had in our last lifetime, or 10 lifetimes, or 100 lifetimes before. Who knows? So what does the Matrix do? Like, you start to kind of figure out the scam. What does it do? Oh, well, we'll give them a wealthy, less intrusive life script next time. But do you really want to roll the dice on that? Do you really just want to just, hey, the light is good, it's God, there's Jesus, there's Buddha and Muhammad, and on and on and on. Is all, I'll be reunited with my family, the pets, everything. You really want to roll the dice on that and hope that everything is fine? Well, what would they do? Again, you got to think in the terms of like, if you're running this place. If you're running this place, what would you do? You have a group of us here sitting and talking and finally starting to peek through the big veil, the Mac Daddy of the veils, that this place is one big fat scam. And, well, what would you do? You'd give Easy Street an Easy Street life script on the next go around, or maybe the next few. Or you'd come and say, oh, you graduated. Congratulations. Good job. All right. So now what you're going to do is be a proxy for the Matrix and interfere with those who are on Earth or in other realms linked to this whole system. There are so many possibilities, and I'm sure there's many that we can't even comprehend. But the point is why risk it? Why? For what? Go from one deceptive system into another? And if the system is all it's cracked up to be, this is the one thing I like to say all the time. If everything is as advertised, if God is love and everything's love and light and everything is as advertised, if it is that way, well, then obviously it wouldn't have a problem with us kind of kicking back and doing our own thing with a sovereign intention and then making a decision. But no. What happens? It's boom, 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 rush, rush, rush. After death communication or deathbed vision visitation, deathbed dreams, all these types of things. Clearing out bullshit karma and on and on and on and on. I mean, we can honestly, I'll leave it at that. But you get the point. It's like, why take the chance? Why?
I told a few stories and they didn't really care. It was like, this is a big joke. This life is a big joke. And I'm not giving it, downplaying it or anything. It's, we take it so seriously and it seems so real, and where we're going, where we come from is so different. It's so light and it's full of love, every living thing.
I was traveling through what looked like deep space, moving past light that was blurring by at, as you had described, breakneck speed. And in the distance, I was seeing a giant light, but about that time, I recognized that I was not traveling alone. It seemed like it was coming from my body, a light beam, in a sense, illuminating from me, illuminating my pathway. And the pathway that I was in was not a tunnel. It was a narrow beam of light illuminated by something coming from within me, about twice the width of my body, arms stretched out. And if I may say, this story has not evolved. This is the same story that occurred in 1970 when I had my memory come back. It hasn't changed a bit. But I noticed two behind me, to my left and right, two angelic beings that were masculine but not clearly male, and they wore white seamless robes that were woven with silver threads. This is hard for me to talk about. It's impossible to prove, but one thing I can say is I've never been the same. My life has always beat on a different drum, and it's because of this experience that we're talking about. But anyway, these are masculine, golden toned skin beings that were clearly delighted to be escorting me into this wonderland, so to speak. Their hair was almost white, or it was the light coming from the heaven or where God was. And I didn't even have to look behind me to see them. My vision had been extremely enhanced, and I could literally see their faces without moving my head. And yet, I couldn't see completely behind me until I just moved a tad, just a little bit. And then my vision could pick up everything. But it didn't take long to start recognizing in the distance, as I'm moving at a hugely fast speed, this huge ball of light. And it looked white at first, only white. But I was moving to it, and it's getting closer and closer and bigger and bigger. The light was not painful to look at. It should have been, because it was brighter than the sun. But something had changed in my eyes, or something had changed in the light. But I could look at this, and all it did was invite me in, and it was warm and inviting. And
it invited him in. You know, he's breaking up. Look, when I haven't gone over his full NDE, but I get the Christian Broadcasting Network type of vibes from this one. But I feel there's authenticity there too. Remember, everything's customized.
But something had changed in my eyes, or something had changed in the light. But I could look at this, and all it did was invite me in, and it was warm and inviting.
It was warm and inviting. So what if it's inviting? That means you have to enter yourself. You have to push forward and go to it. You can stop it. We all can stop it with intention, as we are all creator beings.
But something had changed in my eyes, or something had changed in the light. But I could look at this, and all it did was invite me in, and it was warm and inviting. And everything started changing, but I could see in front of this light, where it went upward and outward in every direction, millions upon millions of people and angelic beings worshiping and praising God. But this wasn't like they had to. It wasn't like they were required to fulfill some duty. This was an expression of who they were and what they were created to be. And there was an angelic being to the right of the door, but of the gate there. But what really impacted me, to this day, still does, is to my left, all of a sudden, I was able to, it was time to focus on this gathering of group of people that had arrived and were just arriving.
They were there to meet you. That's the sense you had.
It was clear that they had come to meet me, come to greet me, and they were just getting there. I mean, some had already been there, but not everyone. It was just it was as if the timing was perfect. Not that they had been waiting there for a million years, but they had just gathered there. It seemed like they were orchestrated to be there by the music. And when I finally focused, they were all in place. And as I looked around, of course, I've never felt so loved.
Never felt so loved. Remember, and we're going to hear this in a experience from an NDEer in this video. She describes it like, I think the way she says, it's like, oh, well, ever hold a newborn baby in your arms and connect with that love? Well, multiply that times 10. And that's the key thing. If time and time and time again over, I mean, it's ridiculous how often we hear it, that the love experienced here cannot be compared to what's experienced over there with the light. So it's, again, common sense, kind of looking at this and saying, well, what about, why is it so different? Why is it so vastly different? Why can't we have the love that's over there here? And then you think, hey, well, remember, we're in this construct. It's their construct. I don't like to kind of throw out the thing like, oh, it's God or the creator or anything like that, because I don't think that for a second. I think it's a parasitic system. But let's just say if, you know, everything is about love and learning and growth and involvement and all that, why does the memory wipe exist? And why is the love so drastically different? Why wouldn't we hang out over there instead? Why come here to have diminished love, diminished learning, diminished evolution as a spiritual essence being? Why? What's the point?
I've never felt so accepted in my life. I've never felt so one with anybody. And yet, when I looked into faces, no one was recognizable as family or ancestors, or there seemed to be nobody that I knew. And yet, it's kind of like you and I right now. I've never met you until just an hour ago. But you and I are like one. We have this oneness in the Lord. And multiply this by 100,000 or whatever.
And you mentioned in the book that they all appeared, they weren't old, they weren't real young, but they were all about 30, early 30s in age, as you estimated it.
Yeah.
All looking very healthy and happy. And you described the unbelievable energy that you had and that they had, the sense of vitality.
Yeah, like out of heaven comes life and love and light. And it's all connected, and it's all interrelated. And this, I felt like I could accomplish anything. And I had so much strength and so much power that wasn't needed, but it was there. And there was such vibrance and energy. But what kind of knocked my socks off was that these persons were clearly of different nations and tribes, basically racial differences, but who cared?
Yeah.
Nobody cared. They were definitely male and female, sorry. But who cared? Because all that mattered was their spirit. And we were one in that same spirit. And everything led to the light. Everything was immersed with love, and it all led to God.
Then
Popping this up real quick.
started raising up. I went through the hospital. I did not see a light. I did not go through a tunnel. I actually went through the top of the hospital, and I could see Earth. I could see everything. I could see the lights. I could see buildings. I could see houses. And it was almost like I took my attention somewhere else, and I was, to the best way that I could describe it, I was home. So
I took my attention somewhere else.
Took my attention somewhere else.
So again, this is the key moment. It's don't give it your power. Don't let it distract you. Because that's exactly what it wants us to do. Key moment. And we see this in every freaking case. It's the distraction. It's like this magnetic interest in quote unquote going home or going to God or what source, creator, Jesus, whatever. It's all the same shit every single time. And discernment is non-existent. Non-existent. It's just like, oh, okay. Well, I remember that. That's familiar to me. Oh, wait a minute. It's really familiar to me. Let me just go. So it's the same mistakes based on sensory manipulation and life scripts and belief systems that are all spun here so that it's easy to transition over there when you die or have an NDE or even some sort of elevated spiritual experience through things like meditation or astral projection or deathbed visions, visitations, on and on and on. Even shared death experiences. So many.
And I was, to the best way that I could describe it, I was home. So I was standing, floating, I don't know what you want to call it. I want to say I was standing, but I doubt that I was standing in front of what looked to be a playground. And I saw all these children, and they were playing, some kind of a schoolyard game, and you could hear all the kids screaming and laughing. And as I looked at them, I realized that they were changing from the way that they looked here on Earth to these little soul lights. They were just buzzing around, and as I looked at them,
So see, they are shape-shifting. She's openly admitting they're shape-shifting. And like, oh, they're different from, how I knew them on Earth. And here they are. What could that possibly be? A manipulation tactic. That's all. I mean, again, the system adjusts accordingly based on you and your belief system.
And they looked back at me. I knew what their name was and what they had died from. And I just was there smiling, and I felt so good. And you just could feel all this love and acceptance. And they were so happy. Nobody was saying, oh, I died down on Earth and now I'm here. It was just like, we're all home and we're playing and we're having this great time. And at that moment, I felt this, it almost felt like a hand on my shoulder, and everything stopped. I focused my attention to that hand, and what I got was, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. You need to come with me. So I left that area and was directed to go to, I think at that point, to my board. But on my way, I was shown a room that had a soul in it. And the room was filled with really beautiful golden light, and it was filled with nothing but this love that we don't feel here on Earth. It's an all accepting, all beautiful. And my impression was this soul was kind of sitting, and he was kind of slouched over, and what I was shown was that he had done really bad things on Earth, and his soul was being conditioned and given love, and they were trying to help him to get through what he had done down here.
So there is, again, this process where they're trying to make this other being better. But that's in the eyes of the Matrix. Now, does that mean they didn't do any wrong? Hell no, I'm sure they did. But there's a reason for all this. It's to memory wipe you and get you moving along so that you can end up reincarnating again. If it's not here on Earth, it's some other realm linked to here. And even if you're not going to be ushered along into the next physical incarnation, it's eventually they will direct you where you're supposed to go. The point is to say no to all of it, so you don't even have to deal with all this.
That he had done really bad things on Earth, and his soul was being conditioned and given love, and they were trying to help him to get through what he had done down here.
Do you have any sense of why you were
Conditioned.
shown that? I mean, why you were able to see that?
I've thought about that question many of times, because why would I be shown something like that? I think that I was shown that so I could help when you're here on earth, people are always wondering, why are we here? What is our purpose? And you hear different people say, well, we're supposed to love each other. And that truly is the case, but it's a type of love that we humans don't really experience all that often. And I personally believe, after seeing what I saw in my near-death experience, that when we die, we don't go to hell. We kind of live in hell. And when we die, we aren't judged by others, and that I need to be more accepting and loving towards other people also.
All right. So another important moment is that, oh, we're not judged and this and that. And this is such a common theme through NDEers. Like, oh, there's no judgment or karma or this or that. And look, it's true. When you realize what this place is all about, the things like karma and sinning and judgment, all that stuff plays a massive role because it's part of the deception system. But it's all involved with this whole matrix, right? It's to guilt trip you. Fear, guilt, shame, and of course love and happiness, all this stuff are the linchpins to this whole system. And what it wants to do is make sure that you feel guilty. But all the NDEers will constantly say, even the leading researchers, which, I do disagree with them on this point, is that you're not being judged by the system. But when you listen to them, listen to the NDEers, that's exactly what they're describing. Otherwise, why would something like a life review even exist? The key thing is that this system is something that you can never, ever please. There's no pleasing this system. You could live the most perfect, amazing life, but no matter what, you are going to have flaws. Things are going to happen. Just common sense, right? You're going to go through things. You're going to do things that you otherwise aren't happy that you did as you were growing up or as an adult, whatever the case may be. And it could be the smallest, most minute, stupid thing on earth that they'll pick on you for. I mean, we've gone over children's cases, and they've made them feel guilty and shamed and all that stuff. And that's interesting, right? Because children are really, really honest. But with the adults, they're always saying, oh, well, there's no judgment or this or that, blah, blah. Like, well, first off, who the hell is this system that we have to even answer to in the first place? You should be good because you want to be good. You should grow and evolve spiritually, yes, while you're here, and break free of the haze that is this place and the human experience in general, and do what's right. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody screws up. But this is a system that you cannot please. And what is this whole thing? What gives that the right to cast judgment upon you when it provides this dumpster fire? Remember, they love to blame all sorts of stuff on us, but the dumpster fire that's here is the dumpster fire that we're given. And we all have to work within the confines of the dumpster fire. Are you gonna, blame a homeless man or woman for going in and stealing a sandwich when they need to eat? No. I mean, there's so many, and that's just like one little small example. And yet we are told over and over and over again that this whole system is not going to judge you. It's not here to judge you. You judge yourself. That's what it says. You judge yourself. Well, did the life review machine just pop up out of nowhere? Yes, because they're at the switch. They're implementing this damn thing and plopping it all out for us. And then, well, lo and behold, what happens? And this kind of leads right into the whole pre-birth memories, the life between lives stage. The life between lives and the past life regressions. It leads right in the pre-birth. It leads into all of those and says, well, man, you were so close. You were so close. You were doing okay. But, you still need to work on A, B, C. And then, as a result of that, also kind of work on X, Y, Z. Again, it's a system you cannot please ever. Ever. And again, one last thing, I know I'm repeating myself, but how does this system that provides this dumpster fire, how does it have the gall to cast judgment upon you when it is providing this limited experience through the meat suit based in pain and suffering and the duality, right? How dare they? Why aren't they in the chair? Why aren't they getting their reviews? Why aren't we kind of all sitting back and looking at all the bullshit that they did? Anyways.
So I think that I was shown that so I could get an idea of what that real unconditional love is.
So I allowed myself to bathe in this beautiful.
Okay, so we are getting to about an hour and a half almost. So what I'm going to do is just take a quick break. We are about halfway through. So yeah, we're probably looking at about total of 2.5 hours tonight. I want to thank you all for sticking with me, and we will see each other shortly. And thanks for stopping by. Much more to come. We're going to be going through these cases. I know I'm kind of stopping them a lot, but there's a lot to unpack. They're very short, and I hope you're enjoying yourselves. Please consider the like button if you found this helpful tonight, and maybe sharing it with those who may be interested. All right, we'll be right back, and look forward to going into segment 2 with y'all. All right, my friends. Thank you for your patience and welcome back. Just as a reminder, this channel is for educational purposes only, or perhaps in the eyes of the law, entertainment purposes only. This is what it is. Okay, so we are going to move along here into the second segment of tonight's mix of NDEs, kind of a little rapid fire stream for you. Would like to give a big thank you to all the members in the chat on Odysee and YouTube. I appreciate you all. Thank you for your continued support of the channel. And just as a reminder too, the next monthly members live stream will be Sunday, May 28th at around 7 or 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For anyone who's a new member, that is usually when we do it the last Sunday of every month around 7 or 7:30. So keep an eye out for notifications. And also there will be no live streams this weekend coming. So this will probably be the last stream, although I will be putting out a video upload while I'm away for a few days. And there are 2 YouTube backup channels if you're interested. And it's a good way, just in case something should ever happen here on YouTube, feel free to check those and subscribe and hit the bell for all. And if you're also following the channel and you want to get notified of the streams, select the bell for all as well. They can get a notification every time the channel goes live. And I also have a Twitter, a Instagram, Facebook, where I put out notifications about an hour prior. So there's alternative ways to keep in touch with the channel. And let's see, I have a Twitch where I do truth in gaming videos. It's very low key, laid back. It's not really any professional gaming channel. It's, light commentary. I usually pick games that are exposing truth. So right now I'm playing Cyberpunk, doing a round 2 on that one with a new approach. So a lot of truth bombs in that one. So feel free to swing on over there sometime if you'd like. And I also have an email list for the channel. And that's also a good way to stay in touch. Should anything happen, that's pretty much the only thing that I have control of. So consider adding your email to that list. And I will never, ever, ever sell your email or any of your personal information. It's always safe and secure. So, all right. And I'm sorry, yeah. And then there's also obviously the memberships on YouTube and Odysee if you're interested in getting a little extra content each month. And there's also a backlog of many, many months of videos available covering all sorts of topics. But your support is always appreciated, but never expected. And, you know, the truth given here will never have a cost. But if you like a little extra content each month and some added direction with where I go with all this, feel free to check it out. Okay, so let's get moving along and continue on. Thank you for your patience again tonight. I appreciate it. Okay.
Light. So
Love is.
I allowed myself to bathe in this beautiful light. And it was pretty much at this point that I felt the presence of somebody near me. So I lifted my head slightly and I looked, and there was a person stood just at my feet, just to the right of me, and with this white blonde hair and this skin that was like glowing light from within. I felt like I'd known this person. I thought, I know you. I actually spoke and I said, who are you? I know you, don't I? I know who you are, but I can't figure it, you know. And this being just kept looking back. This being, I say a being because it was neither male nor female, so a total androgynous sort of look. He or she just kept smiling back at me, reassuringly as well. And I felt safe, and I felt like I was being guarded by this person. So I decided to lay back and put my head back and just bask in this glory. And after a bit, I felt the presence of somebody else had arrived. So again, I lifted my head, and there were 2 female forms either side of me. And they got their hands over my body. They were kind of like just slowly hovering their hands over my body. I felt the energy that was coming from their hands was just really powerful. It was like I felt love coming from their hands, actually. And it was causing like a vibration to go throughout my body that was just sending this energy throughout, you know. And they were healing my body, but not only my body and the physical wounds that I'd just been through, but I felt like my soul was being healed as well. I felt like all...
Okay, so again, this is like the healing center type of vibes where, you know, he's being worked on and taken care of. Well, there's even a case I think we get into later on in the compilation where they're we'll just wait for it here.
Yeah, and they were healing my body, but not only my body and the physical wounds that I'd just been through, but I felt like my soul was being healed as well. I felt like all the years of baggage that I'd been carrying with me that I talked about earlier, all the feelings of guilt and shame and all those things were just being slowly peeled off one by one, and they were just getting down to the pure essence of my soul and healing that. So it was a wonderful feeling. I'd never felt like that before in my life. I'd never reached that point ever or come anywhere close to it. So I decided just to accept what was happening and just allow all this love to keep coming through.
I was my consciousness. I wasn't a physical body. I was like an energy body. And I was in an area that wasn't like a solid room, but it was some sort of a space that actually had an opening that would that the door would kind of open and close and let more of these beings in. And that was kind of the fun part, is in this area where I was in this time, I was surrounded by thousands of little bodies. And in my mind, my memory was they were like little fairy godmothers. They were like little bees, little fairy godmother bees humming around, thousands of them. And this door that would open would let more come in, and then it would shut and more would come in. And I was surrounded by these beings, and it was just a very loving feeling. But the most memorable was that there was a hum or a thrum or a vibration or a sound. And I called these guys my little healing buddies. And the thing that was so comical about them was that while they were healing me, they were also visiting with each other. It was like, hey, haven't seen you since the last healing. How have you been? So there was this excitement and thrum and energy and vibration, and it was just a really loving.
Okay, so I mean, it's a prime example, right? Again, of the familiarity. It's like, oh, where you been? How you doing? You know, sorry you missed the game on TV, but you know, we've been waiting for you. How you doing? Let's get back together. You know, distraction, distraction, distraction. Keep the scam going. I mean, it's the same old playbook over and over and over again. I mean, you watch the channel enough, and even just dig in with your own research, which I recommend everybody does, you'll see this narrative over and over and over again. I mean, it's like, well, what about us just going on our own, doing our own thing? Isn't that kind of the smarter approach to all this, instead of blind belief, instead of being drugged up through a love bomb and beings that we don't even, you know, we may kind of recall but don't, or maybe it's those who have passed that we are familiar with and have a big bond and connection with, but that's how they get us too. These attachments. There's a lot of things going on in all this, and it all kind of roots to us being taken advantage of by this wacky ass system that pawns itself off as divine, or the God, or creator, or source, or Jesus, or, you know, loved ones, or soul groups, on and on.
How have you been? So there was this excitement and thrum and energy and vibration, and it was just a really loving.
So I found myself kind of standing on a stage, maybe 15 or 20 feet across, and surrounded by thousands of beings who appeared to me as they looked human, but they looked like they were made of light, and they were wearing kind of robes, and I was they were kind of arrayed all around me as if I were in a stadium, and I just started downloading information to them.
Okay, so this is another comment. Well, I mean, see, like when I say common, it's something that pops up where the experiencer will kind of pull up into a room. It could be like a stadium or amphitheater type thing, or some big grand entrance, and they are the main attraction, the experiencer. And it's like, yeah, you did it, blah, 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 you know, yeah. You know, it's like everyone's excited. And it's like, what's up with that? That seems like way, way, way over the top. But it pops up. I don't know what the percentage is that it pops up, but it's something that if you start kind of sifting through all these NDEs, you see it appear. So the question is why the big grand show? Why? It's a way to kind of weasel their way into everything. It's weird. Well, it's not weird because we see what the reason is for them doing it.
They were kind of arrayed all around me as if I were in a stadium. And I just started downloading information to them. So I knew exactly where I was and I knew exactly what I was doing. And I didn't even think twice, hey, aren't I supposed to be in the truck? It just didn't even occur to me. I seemed to know exactly what I was doing. It wasn't verbal. It was all just through thought. And it was really, since I wrote the book, sometimes I think back on this and I think it wasn't really even thought. It was almost like taking a whole concept and giving it to them through the power of intention. It was very, very detailed and very...
Through the power of intention. So, again, we have acknowledgement of how powerful intention is. And that's the beauty of still being in the human body. You can work. I mean, I know there's not many beauties, but, there's still a lot of good, right? There's still a lot of good to be had. And the beauty is that you can go outside your body and prove to yourself that intention is everything. And what does that do? It also says that, hey, I'm a creator being. I can, if you got some weird demonic creatures or even some love and light creatures, whatever the case may be, you can shut them down immediately with intention. And that should make all of us, everyone here, feel good about who and what we are. And that's something I promise that, you might not prove it immediately, but with a little dedication and putting some time in, you can prove that you are a creator being and that you can whisk yourself in and out of situations and create your own realities and dismiss, doesn't matter what type of entity it is, whenever you want, with your intention. What does that say to us? It says that we are all creator beings and that we can decline to consent and do our own thing. But there are some that want to knock you down a peg and make you feel worthless, like you have no power. And I'm just going to say, be careful. Be careful. Because this is exactly what the system would want. It would want you to make you feel worthless. It would want you to make you feel like you have no control. Because what are you going to do once you fall into that route? You're going to, step in line and do as you're told. I don't have any power. I can't do anything. I can't consent or not consent or use my intention to get out of a situation at a whim. No. I mean, what is that? I mean, it's horrible. It's absolutely ridiculous. And all it does is just make you release your power to the matrix. What good is that doing? When I promise you, every single one of you listening, you can go out and prove this to yourself today or tomorrow or next month or next week or next year. You just got to put in the time and work on it, but you can prove it to yourself. And that, again, should make everyone feel good about the direction that we are all headed to liberate ourselves. But don't let anyone, under any circumstances, tell you that you don't have the power to do so, that you can't take the sovereign path and use your intention to reclaim yourself. I mean, there's a lot of dirty shit going on right now, in regards to this topic. And I just want to say, look, again, my channel should only be a stepping stone for everybody. I know, a lot of us get together regularly and, I appreciate each and every one of you, but everyone kind of has their own thoughts and processes on how they look into things and all that stuff. But if you're having doubts about who and what you are, then the step is no doubt, to work on lucid dreaming and astral projection. Astral projection, more specifically, and working on improving your lucidity within that so that you can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt what your powers are. And there is this really parasitic, weirdo group of individuals out there who are trying to tell you that you don't have that. You know what that says to me? It says to me one thing, that they haven't even proved it to themselves. For whatever reason, I don't know. I'm not crapping anyone who hasn't, but the point is if you're having doubts, you can prove it to yourself. And realize that, yes, you are in control. Don't let anyone tell you any differently. All right? You deserve it. And don't let anyone knock you down a peg in this realm. It's pathetic. It's an absolute pathetic. It's just ridiculous. Anyways, some of you know what I'm talking about, some of you don't, but don't let anyone dictate who and what you are and what you're capable of. And don't dismiss what you're capable of until you've actually tried and gone out there and done it. You don't have to do it today or tomorrow or next week, but just at some point, if you're having doubts, you can prove it to yourself, I promise. Anyways, let's move along.
A whole concept and giving it to them through the power of intention. It was very, very detailed and very layered. I don't think that I could even unpack it, in my conscious mind right now, because it's just so vast. Yeah. Our human minds can't really take all that in.
And I actually felt really amazing. I felt really light and free. And for the first time, I felt healed and well. It was like all the pain had gone. All the fear and everything I'd been dealing with was just gone. And I just felt incredible. And I felt as though I was surrounded by beings that were taking care of me, but I also felt that I was just loved, unconditionally loved. And it was the first time I had felt this way in my entire life. And words can't even begin to do it justice to this experience, because it was like, for the first time, I didn't have to work at being loved. I didn't feel as though I had to do anything to deserve it or be worthy of it. I was just loved just because I existed.
Everything was so surreal. And I also felt as though something was attached to my solar plexus, and as though I was being vacuumed into this tunnel. I could see people that I recognized, relatives and friends and family that were greeting me at this tunnel. And I remember seeing my third grade.
Okay, vacuumed into the tunnel. Vacuumed into the tunnel. I remember seeing this one and that one, third grade teacher, whatever the case may be. Well, shut it off. I've shown a case here where someone was in the middle of the tunnel and stopped it. Stopped the flow with their intention. The case is there, and there's others too. I mean, there's not a ton of them, but they're out there. The point is your intention is powerful. It's everything. Your ability to consent or not consent is everything. And don't let anyone out there tell you any different until you've at least tried and proved it to yourself. I know I'm repeating myself, but please don't let these clowns get to you. It's nuts what's going on out there. And remember, the last thing I'll say, I know I just mentioned it, but my channel should only be a stepping stone, right? I mean, nobody needs my channel. They don't. Nobody needs it. But the information is here. The patterns are there. Everything, I'm kind of just showing you the blueprint, and you can take it and run with it and go improve all this stuff to yourself without any need for my channel. Take some time, but you'll get there. But don't ever, ever, ever let anyone knock you down a peg or multiple pegs like what we're seeing out there right now. It's ridiculous. You all deserve to do your own thing and take full control of your complete essence. Nothing more, nothing less. Let's put it that way.
Teacher, Mrs. Bellamy, but not the Mrs. Bellamy that's in family. I could see people that I recognized, relatives and friends and family that were greeting me at this tunnel. And I remember seeing my third grade teacher, Mrs. Bellamy, but not the Mrs. Bellamy that I knew in school, but a younger version of Mrs. Bellamy, someone very happy and someone trim, someone pretty, as opposed to this woman that I remember in school as being frumpy probably. It seemed like something happened in her life that she just lost that zest for life. It was as though she was just on a pause moment going through life. And that's what I remember seeing her. But here was this young woman full of life and energy, and she greeted me.
But for me, I was immediately in a bright place talking to a beautiful lady who looked like Glinda the Good Witch of the East in The Wizard of Oz. She was just lovely and very friendly. And I wasn't two anymore. I was a person, maybe 6 or 8, but I had full ability to express myself verbally. So we talked. I remember I said, it's harder down there than I remembered. And then I had a realization that my father would be devastated if I didn't go back.
And I got up so high that all of a sudden the world was like a blue marble, like you see when the space shuttle takes off. And I was, wow, this is great. And then I realized, I don't know where I'm going because I'm going backwards. So I flipped over and the Milky Way was a couple feet in front of me. And I decided I didn't know where I was going. So I had to ask a question, where do I need to go? And I looked at all the stars and I saw one fairly faint but medium-sized star, and I thought, that's where I need to go. I just instinctively knew, you ask a question and boom, you're there. It was instantaneous.
Asked a question and boom, instantaneously I'm there. Now, I will say, briefly with her NDE, I'm sorry, I'm having a mind blank on the name. I could be off, but this is one of the cases that has some evolutions, I believe, over time. And major evolutions. I have to double check, so I really hate to say this without firmly knowing, but just be careful just in case, right? That's all I'm saying. Because just that's all. I'll leave it at that.
And as I was entering what I call the tunnel of light, people were greeting me, and some of the people were still alive on Earth, but they were there greeting me, and along with people who had passed to the other side. They were welcoming me, there was music playing, and I didn't care. I just had this drive to get to the light, the source, the power, which was totally blinding light, yet I could look at it.
It was happening in that moment. Everyone and everything was very clear and in focus, but it did feel like I was a little bit detached from it. And as I was taking all of that in, I started to very gently, very slowly start floating up and backwards. And everything that I was looking at started to become smaller. I felt that I was looking down at the hospital, and I saw these little balls of energy buzzing all around. Those were souls that I was seeing, and they were all connected by this very thin, iridescent line.
Okay, so this is something I've talked about before, and again, there's no way for me to prove it. It's just kind of like a hunch because of descriptions that other NDEers have made, including her. I think that, okay, we're dealing with a couple different things. Now just bear with me just a little bit while I kind of explain my thoughts on this. Oop, camera's on, sorry. Yeah, so just bear with me for a second while I kind of explain my thoughts. Now, again, this could be completely wrong. I'm not saying it's true or anything, but my gut kind of tells me, like, she's describing like how we're all connected, right? And that there's all these like beings connected in this web. Well, what is that? That's like the hive mind, right? And we have examples of the hive mind while we're here. I mean, it's beyond obvious while we're here. But if you're, again, put yourself in the mindset of this system, right? If you were to run a place and need to kind of overwhelm a bunch of true essence beings like us, you would have this kind of network set up where it was like so invasive and powerful that it just threw you for a loop. Now, mind you, you just came from the human body, right? With limited perception, limited understanding, all that stuff. So that in itself is difficult. And then you're switching over into a completely different reality or different state of existence. And then you're, boom, thrusted upon this insane love bomb and familiarity, and that we're all one and blah, blah, blah. See, I think what's going on is this. You have that system, which is linked to the overall system, right? It's kind of like a big, actually, like if you look at the image on the screen, it's like a big web, right? Like a spider's web. All right. And all the little orbs or the beings are linked within this web and emitting frequencies onto you so that the transition phase between when you're a human and crossing over into your more organic state, it can be more easily manipulated. Now, I think what happens is behind the scenes, there is something else that runs the show. This is something that, like, let's just imagine what we're looking at in the center here that actually resembles an eyeball. All-seeing eye, maybe. Bastards. Let's just say, like, there's some sort of AI or big, massive computer system that kind of feeds into this as well. So you have a bunch of just imagine all of the lights there, a bunch of indoctrinated beings, or a mix of indoctrinated beings and parasites that are specifically there to win you over. But behind all that is some sort of AI type system, some sort of supercomputer system. Because remember, everything's recorded. Every single moment of every single day is recorded for your entire life. And it customizes the experience to you, which really seems to indicate that this is one big, massive AI type computer program. And what you would need is a bunch of entities a bunch of other creator beings or entities to overpower you, because you're just coming out of it in an effort to win you over, to draw you in. So that's kind of like what my gut says is going on. Now, can I prove it? Of course not. But that's kind of how I think it goes. And I think that the big asshole computer system running the shit show not only runs and feeds information into something like this, but to Earth and however many other astral realms and physical realities that it may be involved with that make up the overall system. So I don't know. Hopefully that made sense. But again, it's just a thought. That's kind of like what my gut says. Who knows?
Way that a spider web looks if you catch it just right in the sunlight. That's what it looked like, which I now realize is oneness and the way that we are all connected. And I remembered the way that these souls were buzzing around didn't make sense to me, because I thought, why are they all running around like that? I didn't understand why they were all so busy.
All of a sudden, there was total darkness. I mean, darker than you can ever imagine. If I'm dead, I shouldn't be aware of this total darkness. It was getting lighter and lighter. Then the next thing I knew, I was on the edge of what I thought was a cliff. First thing I noticed was the vertical and horizontal river of white and gold, and it was just flowing, and the warmth, and I could see little gold domes on the other side, and I'm thinking, I gotta get on, that's where I gotta go there. And as I looked down, there was an endless pit, and it was grayish blue, but you couldn't see the bottom. And when I looked to my left, I could see the greenest green, and I'm guessing it's grass, and the bluest blue. And as I'm sitting there, I could see two columns with stairs in between them.
So the columns, right? This is the Greco-Roman type of, I mean, he doesn't go into too much detail, but the columns are big. That's something that pops up. You know, that's one of these data points that pops up out there. Now, is it overly prevalent? Well, it's there enough. I mean, this is kind of the issue. It's like, I wish we could have this big ass, well-funded research team to break down percentages and how often this type of stuff pops up. But point is you can look at it from a surface level and notice that, yeah, this is something that's happening. Not just with NDEs, but other experiences. And that goes back to, again, like what I mentioned earlier in the stream, the continuity of familiarity, keeping things familiar so that maybe you don't get alarmed or freaked out, and that you go along with the show and give yourself over to the Matrix a lot more easier than if those things didn't exist.
And there was a gentleman sitting on those stairs, and he had his right foot 2 steps down and his left foot completely extended. I mean, straight out. And he had something in his hand, and he had a robe on, and he had long brown hair that came to his shoulders. And I noticed that I could see objects in the distance, and when I did, energy, like, just shoot out. But I also noticed right away that I had no body. No arms, no legs. It was like my third eye was it. But I felt like I had a body. I felt like I could reach out and walk and do whatever, but I couldn't move from that spot. And I focused on that river, and I tried to figure out how I can get over there. And I knew that this guy over on the right of me was my key to get over there, that I had to work with him to get over there. And when I started to focus on him, next thing I knew, I was in ICU.
Boom. That's a key moment. Look, we're talking about water. Here, listen to one more time.
Third eye was it. That I had no body. No arms, no legs. It was like my third eye was it. But I felt like I had a body. I felt like I could reach out and walk and do whatever, but I couldn't move from that spot. And I focused on that river, and I
focused on that river. Now, common thing out there is the river of forgetfulness, the water of forgetfulness. Look it up. Look up the river of forgetfulness, the waters of forgetfulness, Lethe's water.
Just figure out how I can get over there. And I knew that this guy over on the right of me was my key to get over there.
he knew that this guy was his key to get over there. So he's again relying on something else, another entity, to allow him passage across.
And I knew that this guy over on the right of me was my key to get over there, that I had to work with him to get over there. And when I started to focus on him, next thing I knew, I was in ICU.
Soon as he focused on him, boom, he's in ICU. See, and this is like the power of suggestion that pops up all the time. I mean, granted, yeah, we're not getting like the full picture because this is kind of like a rapid fire clip show, but it's important to point out how like these thoughts, these things that kind of lead anyone who's having an NDE to kind of revert back to their thinking about their time on Earth, regardless of what it is, it's extremely powerful. And remember, you know, it's not your time. You've got to learn more. You've got to grow. You've got to, all these different things that pop up, you know, like it's, you know, we'll see you when it's your time, blah, blah, blah. There is a very, very, very consistent set of things that happen in these types of scenarios. And it's the big one is kind of, how do you put it? They are convinced, or like it's like a thought injection that's put out there into the experiencer that they've got to go back for whatever reason. There was there's been I mean, this has popped up constantly, but one of the ones that really sticks out in my head, I know I brought it up a lot, is there was I believe a woman who had an NDE, and the Matrix was literally going through all sorts of things. Now, mind you, she just had a child, I think. I mean, it wasn't, you know, I think it was like a few years old, or maybe like 4 or 5, something like that. Okay. And in that case, they went through a laundry list until they got to something that they felt that she would agree to in an effort to get her back to Earth. Okay. So don't quote me on this. I don't remember the exact process, but it was something along these lines where they rolled out the daughter or the son, and then they rolled out the, you know, and she's like, oh, well, my daughter, my son, they'll be fine. You know, my husband's there to take care of them. And then they roll out the son. Well, you know, what about this? You know, what about your husband? Oh, my husband will be fine. He's fine. And then I think they rolled out maybe the father. And then I think they ended up, and the last one was the mother, right? So the mother was the last one, or the father, one of the two. Again, don't quote me on any of this, but I'm kind of just throwing it out there. Where basically the system says, oh, well, mom needs you, dying of cancer. That type of thing. So it's really, really diabolical shit. And, well, what do you know? She ended up coming back. So that's kind of like a more extreme case, but there seems to be these energy blasts, these energy implants, these thought processes that align with someone who's having an NDE, so that they, even though they may say, oh, I wasn't thinking twice about my life on Earth, for some reason, these things are brought up and it distracts them and makes them think of Earth. And then, well, what do you know? Boom, they're back here. So really, really interesting, again, to see it right out in the open, how obvious this whole process is.
I was in ICU.
The other important thing that I want to mention is I never had a single thought of Earth and life. Not one single thought was in my head. And as I was walking in this plane, I felt as though these gentlemen would mention people that I would know. They would mention their names, or they would mention names of people that I had heard of before. And I never thought of those people as people I knew on Earth and remembered living with them on Earth. I always knew of them only in our heavenly plane. And there wasn't a beginning to me knowing them, and there wasn't like it was just kind of like I always have known them, and I knew them more as a brother or a sister, not as like a friend, not as like a mother or dad or anything like that. So I thought that was really interesting as well.
And the next thing I know, I am surrounded in a white light with some blues, golden white light with some hints of blue in it, which is...
Okay, so for the previous case, it is interesting. Now, mind you, what they did, based on exactly what he's telling us, is they used his soul group. So perhaps what they did is they customized his experience to... They knew that maybe, or more than likely, that the odds were against them if there was something to be relied upon back on Earth. So what they did is they utilized the soul group, the ones that just didn't incarnate this most recent lifetime, but perhaps they reincarnated or have been in many lifetimes with him prior. So what they do is, again, they dangle the carrot, they do the familiarity, everything like that, and I could guarantee that basically what happened was they used him against himself, and they knew that, okay, well, we can't throw him things that are earthly, so, well, what are we going to do? We're going to roll out portions of the soul group so that he ends up associating with Earth in some way. Heck, they could have even showed him a past lifetime or some sort of thing that, he felt he needed to do to complete his life script in this incarnation. It's really, really diabolical stuff that goes on here.
I knew them more as a brother or a sister, not as like a friend, not as like a mother or dad or anything like that. So I thought that was really interesting as well.
And the next thing I know, I am surrounded in a white light with some blues, golden white light with some hints of blue in it, which is beautiful. And I felt completely at ease. In fact, I've never felt so at ease in my life. I'm a regular meditator, decades, closing on 40 years of meditation. I have many mystical experiences, but nothing like this. I was so happy. I was realizing that I wasn't unconscious, but I wasn't conscious. I mean, I wasn't conscious like earth conscious, different conscious. I felt presence around me. To the distance, in the white light, I saw a little boy writing something down, had his back to me, laying on the ground, very contently writing. And as I moved toward him, but not walking, just moved toward him, felt presence again all around me, wonderful feeling. It was complete ease. There was no burden about anything. And I realized where I was, and I was ready to go. And I was so happy to leave. And I realized there were millions or billions of people, presences ready to receive me, which I was very happy to go. And then I had choices. I could leave, I could come back paralyzed. I saw a tube and I was a quadriplegic. Didn't want to do that. Nothing wrong with that, but not for me. And I could go back and heal. And so I chose to heal. And the next thing I know, I am back to consciousness.
And I was traveling, and I remember almost like I was just standing upright and moving toward this light. I saw this light down there. It was like, it was a doorway, and there was someone standing in it. And as I got closer, I saw this guy with long hair and long beard, and his skin was almost like porcelain. You know, it was really, really white. And as I traveled up at him, his skin color kept changing. It went from white to black to white to black, and it did that over and over, changing like all the skin colors of humans, you know, like all of us. And that was kind of one of my thoughts was, you know, I always wondered, you know, if there is a God and stuff, why are we different colors, skin colors, and, you know, and so on. I mean, I know the science part of it, you know, I was just curious why, if it was just, you know, if God did it, why are we different colors, you know? And, anyway, then his skin went, he turned gold, and his face opened up, and white light came out of it.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that, you know, it's like, hey, you know, you can be paralyzed. You can be paralyzed, but, you know, you got to go back. And he's like, no. Like, but it's the wheeling and dealing phase, right? It's like, remember, their number one objective is to get them back here. That's the number one objective. Get them back here into the meat suit for however long their life script's supposed to last. And boom, everything's over. They're right back in the thick of things. And if that involves giving them some healing so that they're not paralyzed, so be it. And in some cases, there are individuals who come back and they suffer tremendously and are paralyzed. I mean, it's just incredible. But all they had to do was just kind of put it out there. But everything is about the wheeling and dealing in these moments, because at the end of the day, all they care about is making sure that you get back here. And if that involves healing and less suffering, so be it, because in the long run, they're capitalizing more off of the individual by having them here than not.
Anyway, then his skin went, he turned gold, and his face opened up, and white light came out of it. And then he broke away, and he was just light. And I heard the most beautiful sound coming out around him. It wasn't music, it was just sound. It was, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just beautiful. And it like went through me. I remember almost like I was being drawn in by it. And
almost like he was being drawn in. Remember, it's very alluring, but if you don't know the mechanics of how this place runs and can see how they get away with this bullshit, then you're easy pickings. Or we're all easy pickings because we're here. We've all fallen for it. It's fucked up, but no more. Hashtag last timers, my friends.
And behind him were a bunch of people standing in a half circle. And I remember everybody, there was a bunch of people like really, really close. And then as I got closer, because it was quite a ways away. It was almost like maybe 80 yards or something. I don't know if I'm right on that, but it felt like it was forever. I was coming up on it. And as I got there, and I saw this, there were actually people with wings. And I know how this sounds. I used to make fun of the stories like this. I was like, yeah, right, jackass, people with wings. That's a good one. And typical, Jesus look-alike thing, and so I remember just being, I knew I was dead, and I was like, and then he stuck his hand out for me, and here I am, not really believing in God and anything, and then he sticks his hand out for me, and anyway, I was like, no, please, don't take me. But I could hear him talking to me and through his mind, not like he wasn't speaking, but I could hear him. And the light that came around him too was, it was beautiful inside there. It was really like a soft white light.
Okay, so we see like there's definitely some sort of programming learned here on Earth. Even though like, he said he made fun of it and this and that, there's something nestled in his subconscious or his learning about his experience here on Earth that carried over into the near-death experience. Because remember, like we were talking about earlier, everything's customized to the individual. So if you believe that, Earth is a globe, or if you believe it's a flat Earth, or whatever the case may be, and that, there's planets hurling around all over the place and stars and all this stuff, it doesn't matter what your belief system is, the system will make sure to customize it to you so that you see and experience something like that so that you're easily manipulated.
It wasn't bright to hurt your eyes or anything like that, but it was similar to the light that came out of his face, like when his face broke up and he was just light. Anyway, it's a weird ass story. He was trying to take me. I said, please don't take me. I gotta take care of my family. I gotta make sure they're okay. And I remember him smiling, and he leaned his head and nodded at me. He called me by another name. I don't know. I still can't pronounce it. I can't say it. I don't know why. It seems like it's right there. And then he said, then he called me by another name. Or that by that name. Then he calls me Willie. He was like, I'll see you in quite a while, Willie. And then it seems like it's right there. And then
now notice he can't remember. And this is something talking about a lot, that the memory wipe exists in NDEs because there's only so much information that the system is willingly allowing to be released back here on Earth, because they want certain narratives being spun. Regardless of where they land, there's just certain things they'll allow back here and certain things they won't. It kind of goes with the same thinking with the past life regressions, how the soul classes, they cannot be infiltrated. The information, whatever the hell's going on in those things, is simply not allowed to come back here. Okay? And that is a massive data point. Massive. So you got to ask yourself, what's going on in those soul classes? What's going on in the NDEs where only certain information is allowed to come back and certain things aren't? Because there are these memory wipe mechanisms going on long before you get here. And they make sure that they fine-tune them so that when you do get here or you come back here, that only so much information is going to be allowed for public consumption.
And then he said, then he called me by another name. Or that by that name, then he calls me Willie, he was like,
that name. He doesn't know the name. Remember that. He doesn't know the name.
Then he called me by another name. Or that by that name, then he calls me Willie, he was like, I'll see you in quite a while, Willie. And then I remember I had no pain there. There was nothing wrong with me there. And then all of a sudden, I was back in my body, and I was laying on the ground in a lot of freaking pain.
But the next thing.
Okay, so, let's see. Yeah, well, this is the last experiencer case of the night. I think we got about maybe 15 minutes to go. This is a little bit longer.
I know. I was drifting through this mist, standing upright, drifting through this mist, and all around me in the mist would have been about maybe half a dozen other souls moving in the mist, and we're all slowly moving up. And I remember thinking, this is so wonderful. I was so happy. I was going home. I knew I was going home. It was the most wonderful feeling.
Notice her words. She says, I knew I was going home. I knew. Remember, I mean, not going to rehash it every time, but, you know, it kind of goes back to the beginning of the stream, how they all feel this way. They feel like they're going home, that they're being reunited, and it's the logical place to go.
So wonderful. I was so happy. I was going home. I knew I was going home. It was the most wonderful feeling. Utopia, I suppose you could say it, but if you've ever held a new...
Utopia.
Utopia, I suppose you could say it, but if you've ever held a newborn baby in your arms and you get that feeling of love, well, you increase that by 10 times, and that's the energy that was inside this beautiful white mist. This overwhelming energy and excitement about going home.
So the white mist, the white light is the culprit for causing this. It's been proven over and over and over again how much this is affecting individuals and their discernment and their ability to think critically. That perhaps, just maybe, that everything isn't that it's all cracked up to be. But these systems are linked. Remember, the Earth system, the astral, the light, all this stuff is linked. So if it's all linked, you got to ask yourself, why, oh, why do we keep falling for it? Because it's so easy for us to get in the thick of things and give it credence when it doesn't deserve it.
I didn't even give another thought to what was happening down on Earth. Didn't even enter my mind for a moment. I was just focused on going home. And then next thing you know, I was inside this really bright white light, really opaque bluey white light. And then this woman appeared. Bing, just like that, she appeared. And she would have been, I don't know, maybe 5'6", and she had this long blue gown on. I guess it was like a sapphire blue gown on. And she had this white head scarf over her head down. It was quite long, went past her hips. And she had her hands here between her breasts in a prayer position. And she had always kept her head bowed like that. And she had long, straight, glossy black hair down to her waist. And she spoke to me telepathically. She never moved her lips once. And she said, "Go to the right. There is something we want you to do."
So go to the right. There is something we want you to do. So direction. Asking someone to do something. Asking someone to do something. Can't stress that enough, right? I mean, they're asking her to agree to something. Now, look, she's already in the thick of things, so kind of my thought on all this is like, you shouldn't even be involved with any of this, because all it's going to do is just get you tumbling down the illusion like Alice in Wonderland.
And bing, I was there. And I can remember this sort of...
Sorry to pause it again, but the intention thing is shown right there too. It's like they gave her the directive on where to look, what door to go through, so to say. And then boom, she puts her intention, her attention, and consents. And well, boom, she was there. Her words, not mine.
And she spoke to me telepathically. She never moved her lips once. And she said, "Go to the right. There is something we want you to do." And bing, I was there. And I can remember this sort of apricot-coloured glow around everything. And there was a man there, and he had quite scruffy, long black hair, wiry black hair and a bushy beard. I guess he looked about maybe in his 50s, short, sort of stocky guy. And then there was a tall guy next to him that looked a bit like Abraham Lincoln, tall, skinny guy with a top hat. And next thing you know, I was walking. The bushy man with the bushy beard said something. I don't know what he said because I don't remember, because we're not meant to remember. Next thing I was walking along a stream, and through.
Okay, so what do we have again? Next, I was walking along a stream, the river of forgetfulness, the waters of forgetfulness, Lethe's water, just like what we brought up in the, a couple experiencer cases ago.
So, I was walking. The bushy man with the bushy beard said something. I don't know what he said because I don't remember, because we're not meant to remember. Next thing I was walking along.
Because I don't remember, because we're meant not to remember. Wow, what could possibly go wrong in this type of environment? If you're memory wiped. Open admission. We've had multiple open admissions of the memory wipe just in this video alone. Come on, guys. If you don't have a memory, if you're memory wiped, lifetime after lifetime, if you don't know where you came from, why you were here, or where you were going, and everything is kind of vague, spotty details, and you don't even remember last lifetime or even a couple lifetimes ago, and if you do and you get regressions, it's very minimal information. In the grand scheme of things, you are an everlasting being. So what kind of information are you really getting? You're getting information pertaining to your life and existence within the matrix system, not with whatever happened before all of this. See, that's the big problem. So why put your faith and your trust and everything into all this when it is the very system that's provided all of this?
I was walking. The bushy man with the bushy beard said something. I don't know what he said because I don't remember, because we're not meant to remember.
I don't know what he said. I don't
remember. I was walking along a stream, and through some silver birches, lovely white barked silver birch trees. And we're walking through a stream, and all the flowers that were like daisies and marigolds that were growing in the meadow around us all glowed from the inside out. So down here on this earth, the light reflects off flowers. Were there, the flowers radiated the light from within them. And it was absolutely stunning. And so I'm walking with him, and he was talking to me, and he was showing me different events in my life. And I don't actually remember what they were, but I do remember at one point saying to him, oh no, I would never do that. Obviously I did. So anyway.
I would never do that. Obviously I did. So that's the fear, guilt, shame matrix creeping right up on her, making her feel guilty.
Showing me different events in my life. And I don't actually remember what they were, but I do remember at one point saying to him, oh no, I would never do that. Obviously I did.
Okay, so again, everyone likes to say, oh, there's no judgment, everything's fine, there's no sinning or karma or judgment. You judge yourself. Well, they say there's karma, but in sinning and all this other stuff. But again, who is this system to judge you or me or anyone that may run across this video when they have provided this dumpster fire? Come on. And all these NDEers will say over and over and over again that, I was judging myself. That is some freaking slick ass shit, man.
So anyway, we're walking there, and he talked to me for quite a while. And then, I don't know what else happened, but oh yes, I do. Yes, that's right. And then from there, I suddenly found myself alone in this, like a village. It had like white marble road and white marble walls, and there was a white marble, like they looked like little shops or something on one side. There's quite a lot of busyness and people moving around, no vehicles or anything. And there were dogs. There was dogs and cats. I could see them all. And then there was a building that looked a bit like, I suppose, a Greek building, very square with these pillars in the front.
Okay, so here we go again. We've got the pillars in the front. We got the Greco-Roman architecture rearing its ugly head yet again. The continuity of familiarity. The megalomania that this whole system just loves to push on us. Again, if things are familiar, what are you gonna feel? You're gonna feel more and more like you're at home. If you know that Greco-Roman architecture exists on Earth, and you have this loving feeling and this and that, well, when you cross over or have an experience that kind of puts you in this scenario with these entities, with these beings, with this construct that looks familiar to something back on Earth, well, it's going to make things a lot easier for you to process and handle. There's a reason they're doing all this, and it's to make us feel like we are at home. Can't stress that enough. There's a reason for everything. And the reason is always to make us feel comfortable and like we are at home, when in fact, it's the furthest thing from the truth.
And I knew that I had to walk up these stairs. So I walked up the stairs, and the doors, which would have been, 15 feet, 20 foot high, they were huge, just opened up. And inside there was a glow, this misty glow, and on both sides was like a library. There was all these shelves with, I guess, books on them. And I'm walking down there. I just knew to keep walking, and then they would tell me when to stop. And I knew that I was going to find the book of my life. My whole soul record.
Okay, so she knew in advance. So what is this? This is probably, if I had to guess, the power of suggestion being blasted to her. I knew I was going to find the book of my life. I knew I was going to find it. And well, what does the Matrix do? It delivers that. It manifests exactly what it wants her to see, or perhaps what she was thinking of in her relation to the whole Matrix system. This is how they work. It's right in our faces, my friend. And this is just one case. All these cases, we've only, we're going over 11, right? 12. And it's the same thing. Yeah, there's some slight variations here and there. But the beauty is you can look into these yourself, do your own research, and benefit greatly out of being able to see the deception up front and center.
My whole soul record, it was all there, and I was going down and down and down to retrieve it, to read it, which I must have done because I don't remember anything. Next thing you know,
I must have done because I don't remember anything. I mean, come on. I must have done it because I don't remember anything. The memory wipe. A lot of people out there seem to think that the memory wipe doesn't exist in NDEs, but there are so many open admissions that this is happening in NDEs, among many other things. I mean, obviously including our very existence here, because the human form is so limited. The human perception is so limited. That's not to make any of us feel any less, but this is what we're up against. And when you see it for what it is, it's pathetic. It's a joke. And that's what should empower you, because it is pathetic. It's a clown show. And the beauty is that you can step foot back into your own power and not allow anyone to tell you how to live your life, do whatever you have to do. And when the time comes at natural death, you'll know where you stand, and that nothing is allowed to interfere or mess with you whatsoever. So important. And no stupid YouTube channels are going to try and knock you down a peg and make you feel worthless and all that stuff. I mean, what's going on out there is sick. Absolutely sick. But do your thing. Do your thing. Don't worry about my channel. Don't worry about anyone's channel. Just do your research, do your thing, go within, and prove everything to yourself. Again, nobody needs my channel. Nobody. I can give you kind of the rough outline. Wayne can give you the rough outline. Dan can give you the rough outline. But at the end of the day, all that matters is that you prove it to yourself and step foot into your true power. And never, ever, ever let someone chirp in your ear and tell you any different. Because you can prove all of this to yourself. Case by case, topic by topic, experiencer by experiencer. You deserve it. Don't let these clowns get the best of you. And there's a lot of weird things going on out there. A lot of shit talkers. A lot of all sorts of different things, right? A lot of individuals who I've spoken with in the past and realize like the depths of their negativity and paranoia and step back and all of a sudden it's like some personal thing. Yet they watch every single stream, every single minute of every single stream. And I'm not trying to make this about me, but I'm saying, there's weirdos out there. There's a lot of weirdos. It's not just one. It's multiple. All right? But put all that aside and remember what's important. You don't need Forever Conscious Research Channel. You need to prove it to yourself so that you feel better at the end of the day about where you stand in your own footprint of power. That's all that matters. And don't let anyone ever say any different, because you deserve it. There's a lot of demonic shit going on, and its number one goal is to take away your power, take away my power. And I sit back and laugh at it. It's a joke. Because you see the demonic energy right up front and center. It's all there for you to see. But don't give it your energy. Don't give it anything. Because it's a clown show. And there are all sorts of weirdos trying to misdirect you so that you don't stand in your footprint of sovereign power. Anyways, let's move on.
And I knew that I was going to find the book of my life. My whole soul record, it was all there, and I was going down and down and down to retrieve it, to read it, which I must have done because I don't remember anything. Next thing you know, there's a lot of tables. I'm standing looking at these people. They had these almost like picnic tables, and there was all these women and men, and they were making cloth. And the ladies picked up the cloth and they would hold it up, and it was just like a white cloth. And then when they turned it around, it was invisible, like an invisible shield. And when they turned it back, it was a white cloth. And they were making this just by hand, very happy, very content. And the thing that I felt when I was there is I knew them all. I knew every single one of those people by their soul. They were friends. Every one of them was my friend. I knew them all from a long time ago because I recognised their light, their soul inside of them. And it was wonderful to be amongst all these friends and people that loved and cared for you. And that's the feeling you get the whole time that you're there. You feel.
Okay, so really, really important. Like, oh, it was wonderful to be around all of this love, all of this compassion and empathy and all these beings. Yeah, but it's all... hold on. The one thing you have to really take into account is this. This is a one man or woman show. Each of us, one essence show. Each of us has to reclaim our essence on our own terms, right? Reclaim our memories, reclaim our essence, escape this place at the time of natural death the right way so that when the time comes, we're not going to have to be subjected to this. Now, does that mean you don't have compassion and empathy for those who are going through all of this and have to maybe live another 10, 20, 50, 100, 10,000 lifetimes? Of course not. It's horrible to think about, especially for those that we love and care for. But I hate to say it, but I'm going to be blunt. You have to think about yourself in this scenario. That's the bottom line. The best you can do while you're here is share and talk to others who are receptive to hearing this type of information. And you may get laughed at, you may be called crazy, and all sorts of horrible things, right? But screw them. Who cares? But at the end of the day, when the chips fall on the table and you're facing natural death, it's only you and you alone. Right? That's really what it boils down to. And what does the system do? It weasels its way in and tries to suck you right back into its big mindfuck of a game. Because that's what it does. This is an individual journey if there ever was one. And I know, there's a number of you who listen who don't like that, and I get it. Look, I've had a number of dogs, a number of friends who have passed. All sorts of family who've passed, all that stuff. We've all gone through that, right? But at the end of the day, am I going to risk my liberation for anyone else? Hell to the no. Hell to the no. And that's really what it boils down to. Are you going to let some jerk off on YouTube or some other platform knock you down a peg and make you question your creator being abilities? Are you gonna go about and do your own thing and look out for what's best for you? And that doesn't mean that you don't have compassion and empathy for those who are still asleep, but it's up to them and them alone to wake up when they want to. I can't stress that enough. This is an individual journey. You should still value and appreciate the relationships that you have and try to wake up those who will listen if they are willing and able. But if they're not, still enjoy the relationships that you have and make the best of it. But at the end of the day, don't let anyone take your power away. I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but I just with everything that's going on out there, don't feed it. Just do your thing. I know we all want to help our friends, our family, our pets, and the best thing we can do is really let them know how we feel. But once they discount you or treat you like an asshole or talk down on you and stuff like that, maybe give it another shot when the time is right. But other than that, again, everything's the individual journey. And that's just how this all works. I mean, it's in my opinion, it's proven. It's the playbook. It's all about keeping you attached to others, keeping you attached to this realm or realms, so that you have, look, we're human beings in this moment. We have hearts, we have compassion, we have empathy. We want to care for others and do what's best. But if they aren't willing to make the step for themselves, there comes a point where you just need to stop talking about this stuff, right? Or maybe bring it up 10, 15, 20 years from now when they're on their deathbed. I don't know. But don't ever let it impact your path or your journey. Ever. Can't, I know I said it a bunch of times, but I can't stress enough. Don't disconnect from your family or friends. Don't talk down on them or anything like that. Try to do what you can to talk to them. And if they aren't in for it, then, well, you know what? They've got to figure it out for themselves when the time comes. And it may not be this lifetime. That's the hardest thing I think all of us have to deal with. So anyways, sorry, kind of rambling a lot tonight.
Like you're amongst all, and it was wonderful to be amongst all these friends and people that loved and cared for you, and that's the feeling you get the whole time that you're there. You feel like you're amongst all these people that love and care, and you know that you're one. You are all connected to the one source. They were no different than you, they were no greater than you, they had no different skills than you. We were all part of the same consciousness, like a clothesline, and we were all just hanging off that clothesline, all connected to the same thread. And we were all exactly the same thing. We were all pieces of the same thing. It was just incredible. And I remember a friend of mine's husband, and he'd passed away in his 30s, and he was there. He came up and he spoke to me, and we sat on the picnic table and we talked. And it was just, I don't know what we talked about. I can't remember what we talked about, but I remember talking with him. And it was so, I don't know. It was going home. It truly is going home. Anyway, next thing you know, bang, I was back in this white opaque light. And I heard the lady's voice, but I didn't see her this time. And she said, "You've got to go back now." And I said, "No, I don't want to go back. This is home, so why do I have to go back there?" I had no connection to that earth at all. So she opened up like a hole, about the size of a big beach ball. And I looked down, and I would have been probably not much higher than the power lines. That's where I was. And I could see my body laying down on the ground below me, just laying there, just as I was dressed when I went up. And I looked down at it, and I remember saying to her, "Do I live in that?" Because I had no emotional connection to that suit of armour, that skin shell at all. Nothing at all. It meant absolutely nothing to me at all. I just said, do I live in that? And then there was this whoosh sound.
Do I live in that? No feeling at all, and whoosh, right back to earth.
Shell at all. Nothing at all. It meant absolutely nothing to me at all. I just said, do I live in that? And then there was this whoosh sound. And then that clunk, and it was like somebody had hit me across the head with a bit of 4x2 piece of wood. Oh, my head ached. And I woke up. And I was, of course, back in my body. And I was okay, life was okay, and I remember feeling really disappointed that I was back. Because I really didn't want to be there, because I know.
I remember feeling very disappointed because I didn't want to be there. Well, this is the problem, right? It's the It's how the system works. If it's not your life scripted time to come back here, then you're basically supposed to come back here and fulfill this BS life script. And I'd like to put forth that, well, what if you decide not to interact? What if you decide to say, hey, I'm going to stop myself from hurling down the tunnel. I'm not going to go to the light. I'm not going to interact with anything or anyone. Well, it would make sense because of all the evidence that's out there regarding shutting this shit down with intention. But the problem is anyone who makes a clean break for it is sure as hell not going to be coming back here to tell their story. That's the difficult part, right? But the beauty is we see the power of intention. We see the power of shutting all this down if we want to. But it's got to be quick and soon. And I'll also kind of add to all this that I don't think it matters. I think if your heart and intuition, and that's why I push everyone to do their own research and get out there and spend the time to the point where you have this firm inner knowing. That firm inner knowing is so key because what does that do? Your intention is pure and unrelenting until the day you die. And moving forward, that your intention is to be sovereign. Your intention is to not interact, non-interference, shielding, creating your own realm. That's your intention. And that's the beauty of seeing all this information because you can see and experience for yourself how this is all possible. And I know I repeated myself a lot. I'm sorry, but given everything that's kind of going on, I think it's important to put that out there. And I hate seeing anyone lose their power because of some set of manipulation from some clowns out there.
Okay, life was okay, and I remember feeling really disappointed that I was back.
Yeah, I'd be
because
disappointed
I didn't
too.
want to be there because I know now what love is, and I know that this is a temporary existence, and we're here to learn things and to teach others, and then we'll go home.
All right, my friends. Just want to say thank you for stopping by tonight. I hope you gained some value out of the compilation that we did. And there will be some more to come. There's going to be a part 3. Probably get to it in June, but maybe the end of the month. And you all take care of yourself, all right? And don't let anyone take your power away, all right? Just a reminder to members, the monthly members live stream will be Sunday, May 28th between 7 and 7:30. So we'll see each other again soon. There will be no streams this weekend. That's kind of why I did this Monday one. And look forward to seeing you next week. Or, I'm sorry, next week sometime. So thank you so much. Please consider hitting the like button on the way out. It does help. And also, if you're listening to the replay, commenting on the stream afterwards, it does help get the word out and the algorithm, regardless of what platform you're on. I want to say a big thank you to everyone listening on Odysee and Rumble and Twitch and, of course, YouTube. So we'll see each other again soon, and Take care of yourselves. Don't work too hard. Okay? Much love.